Welcome to the first one in a mini series of videos about divisions or diminutions. This is really experimental. I'm not quite sure how this is going to work in video. I've been doing this material in a couple of different teaching settings over the last year or so, and it's worked okay in person. I'm not sure how it's going to translate by video, but I'm going to try it and see what happens. So the idea is that we'll do 3, maybe 4, I don't know, in a sequence where we're going to look at different ways of ornamenting, different types of divisions, different sources for how do we know what kinds of divisions to apply, and then how do we go about taking what's in these sources and actually putting them into what we play. So you're going to need several things for this, and there's going to be homework. So first of all, you'll need, I thought we would base this on one particular madrigal. So the madrigal is by Cipriano de Rore, alla Dolce Ombra, and there should be a link underneath the video to an online version of this piece, which is what I've got in front of me here. It's a very long piece. I think there are 4 verses. So the link I've sent you is 15 pages long. You do not need all of it. You want the first 3 pages, which is just the first verse, the first stanza of the madrigal. So on page 3, it says secunda stanza halfway down. We don't need that bit. You just want the first 3 pages. So you need to print that out. Tape it together as demonstrated here. I feel like I'm a Blue Peter presenter. Then the other things you're going to need are in PDF files, which again are linked to under the video, and there should be 2 of them. There's a link to my own version of this piece, which has some bits missing, which are the bits that we are going to ornament. So you'll need to print that version out as well. And then there's a set of divisions that I've taken from Ortiz. So we're going to look at several different sources of division manual, if you like. And rather than point you to versions of the whole lot and get you to try and read the whole thing and find the little bits that are appropriate, I'm going to send you the little relevant bits, and we'll look together at how we might apply just a small section of each one to this piece. So there are some Ortiz divisions that you'll need to print out. You will need also a pencil. You will probably also need a rubber. You will definitely need at least 1 cup of tea. Okay, I think that's everything. If you've got the madrigal at the ready, I thought the easiest way of doing this might be for us to work on one part, rather than to say, okay, here are the principles, ornament whichever part you like. I was trying to think of the best way that we're going to be able to play it and not get in a complete mess. So I think we'll look at the alto part, because you can play that on either treble or tenor. So I thought that might cover as many people as possible. I guess bass players, you could play it and play it in the wrong octave, and it really wouldn't matter. We're just looking at the principles of dividing. But we'll work on the alto part. So let's play it first. It would be good to kind of know the madrigal really well in an unornamented state. So the magic box down here is going to play the bass and the tenor lines, with apologies for the terrible synthesised sound. Then you can play the alto part, and I will play the cantus. So between us we'll have all 4 parts going, and we'll just hopefully learn the madrigal first. Here we go. madrigal in its unornamented state. It might be worth playing that a few times just so that we know it really well. I think the better you know the piece, the easier it is to then add extra things to it. And the art of divisions was something that lots of people wrote whole books about. You've probably seen them, pages and pages and pages of here's a second, and here are 10 ways of ornamenting a rising second. Here's a rising third, and here are 10 ways of ornamenting a rising third. Every single interval rising, every single interval falling, and then in every conceivable key you can imagine. They go on for pages. The first one we're going to look at is by Diego Ortiz, Spanish writer, but this was published in Rome in 1553. There's a really beautiful edition of it by Bärenreiter. But I've taken from it some examples of how to decorate a cadence. And I think those are if you're starting out learning how to add ornaments, I think cadences are the most obvious and the easiest place to ornament. So you all hear people, that kind of thing. So that's what we're going to look at first. So if you can get hold of your cadential decorations, 2 pages of them, I've been very kind and I've picked ones in the key that you're going to need for this madrigal, and I've just selected edited highlights. You haven't got all 492 possible versions. Why don't we just play them through? So example number 1, the cadence that is being decorated is that, and then below it, A, B, C, D and E are all examples of decorations that Ortiz gives for that particular cadence. So why don't we play them? If that's a minim, let's play the top example and then play each of the ornaments through, just to get the idea. So here we go. 1, 2. And then example A. Example B. C. D. E. So they're all kind of variations on a theme, aren't they? What I think is important is that however many notes you've added, however far you've gone and however many quavers you've played, the final 2 notes are always F sharp G. So the final 2 notes are always the same as the ones that were being decorated in that top example. And that's really crucial, that you don't kind of wander off, end up somewhere miles away from where you started, and then come leaping back to the note that you wanted to finish on. And you'll see that as a theme as we go through. Let's have a look at example 2 then. This is longer, and you'll notice I've put a few bits in brackets, and that's because it's possible to just use sections of these divisions. You don't necessarily need to take the whole lot. The whole lot might not fit into whatever it is that you're doing. So it's possible to just use a little bit. But we'll do the same again, shall we? We'll play example 2 in G major, and then we'll play each of the 3 ornamented versions. Same kind of minim speed. 3, 4. This is example A then. Ready, go. B. C. Going on, example 3. This is just a cadence in D major. and I've chosen some slightly more fancy versions. So example 3 coming up then. Ready, and... So that's what we are going to decorate, and this is example A of how we might do that. 3, 4. Should probably have had an F sharp in it, shouldn't it? Let's do that again. Example B. And... This is why we practice our scales. Example C. Ready, go. And then the last one, example 4, is a cadence that falls by a semitone. That's interesting because actually if you look at the end of the madrigal, which happens to be just poking out under my sheet here, the top part, the soprano part that I was playing, finishes there, which really is just a falling semitone, isn't it? C to B. So I thought these might be useful. Example 4 then, falling semitone into a G major cadence. Here we go. Ready, and... A, B, C, and D. So there you have some edited highlights, vastly edited I might add, from Mr. Ortiz for his cadential decorations. So we'd better think about how we might use some of them. Now it gets interesting. You need my version of the madrigal, which has got lots of bits missing and brackets in it. You need your cadential decorations to hand, and it might also be useful to just be able to see the original score. And I'm going to need a bigger table. So we're looking at bar 6 in my version, and I've taken what is a G major cadence in the alto part, and I've decorated it using example 2 on the division sheet. Just the little bit at the end, the very first note has become a D because that's what's printed in the alto part initially, and then I've just taken that last little bit of decoration and put it into the alto part. So the original was, and I've decorated which I hope makes sense. And in bar 9 I've taken another G major cadence, this time in the tenor part. And I've taken the decoration actually from the same place, example number 2 and the first one of those, letter A, just I've taken a slightly longer version of it. So what was in there originally, can I do the clef? Here we go. That was the tenor part in bar 9, and now we've got... I hope that makes sense. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk through ornamenting my part, the cantus part, with the 3 remaining things that I've bracketed as cadences. And I'm hoping what's happened is that in the printout I've left in there what was in the original, but I've done it in a very faint grey print with the bracket over the top, so you can see what it is that you're ornamenting. But it should be faint enough that you're able to choose your decoration from the sheet and write it in. So I'm looking at bar 13 then, in the cantus part. and it's a D major cadence. So I'm on page 2 of my division sheet, and I'm going to use example A. This is what's here. And I'm going to use about halfway through example A as my chosen ornament for that bit. So I'm actually going to physically write it in, because I think to start with, people think, oh, I should be able to do this from the top of my head, and eventually you will. You'll find that there'll be certain ones that you can just remember, and they'll come flowing out as you play. But how on earth are you supposed to do that? How are you supposed to build up your internal memory bank if you haven't spent some time actually seeing it written down and really kind of hearing what's going on? So I think it's perfectly acceptable to be penciling things in. I sometimes find when I set off on a division and I'm playing by ear, I've miscalculated the length of the bar. So I've planned my division and I know what I'm expecting to play, and then the end of the bar comes before I've managed to quite get through it all because I just miscalculated. And or sometimes the other way round, you know, you've finished your division and you're ready to play the cadence note, and it hasn't arrived yet. So it really is good practice, I think, to write in and measure out. I don't think you should see it as a kind of less good way of doing things. I think it's a perfectly useful learning tool. So I've written my cadential decoration into bar 13. So I've gone on and I'm looking at bar 19. And it's another D major cadence, looks suspiciously similar to the previous one. Is what is there. I'm going to use example 3 in D. I'm going to use B and play slightly fancier than the previous one, and again I am just going to write it in and hope I can read my writing when it comes to playing it through. I'm sure you can guess what's coming next. Okay. The last one then, at the very end of the piece, the treble part finishes which is basically, isn't it, falling semitone. Actually, De Rore has got his own ornament in there already, but we can add to that. So I'm looking at example 4, falling by a semitone. I like the look of letter C. So I'm going to write that one into the treble parts at the end. Okay, so that's all the cadences in that cantus part decorated to some extent. So let's play it through. I'm going to get the magic box to play the bass, the tenor and the alto. I'll play the cantus and I'll put in the decorations that we've just chosen so that you can just follow it and hear what's going on. It's going to play the ornament that I've put in bar 6 in the alto. It's going to play the ornament I've put in bar 9 in the tenor part. It won't play any more, and I'll put the treble ones in. I hope that makes sense. Is this going to work? Yes. Here we go then. must remember not to pull up at the end when playing with a machine. So I hope that makes some kind of sense, and I'm sure you can imagine what's coming next. So your job is the alto part then. I've done the first one for you in bar 6, but you've got another cadence with a bracket over it in bar 14, 22, 26 and 32. They're all cadences with examples on the sheet. So you've got homework. Use the sheet, do write stuff in. Don't worry about having kind of several goes at it, rubbing it out, do whatever. If you're feeling adventurous, by all means kind of add some extra notes and use those as a guide. If you do that and then come back again, we'll play it through with the machine playing the tenor and the basses. You can play your ornamented version of the alto part, and I'll play the ornamented version of the cantus. Are you ready? This is the version with beautifully ornamented alto part, ornamented cantus, and the magic box playing tenor and bass. Did it work? Should we try it a little bit quicker? Let's see if we can just notch the speed up a fraction. That was a good thinking speed. Just a little bit quicker, exactly the same thing again. And that's lesson 1, how to ornament every available cadence. We'll pick a different interval next time and a different division treatise to take our examples from, and hopefully we'll just be able to build it up a stage at a time.